Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to another 13 movies that I recently watched for the first time in 2020. So this is another list. I did one of these before. You can go check it out. Um, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's 13 movies I have watched for the first time this year. They don't necessarily have to be movies from this year, especially because of the lack of movies so far this year because of Corona. But they have to be movies that I have never seen before this year. Um, so we're going to go over them. I'm going to give you my quick, basic reviews on them. Not going into any big details or spoilers on any of them. Just my most basic thoughts, and we're going to enjoy. We are going to see what we have to say. And as always, if you have anything you want to say regarding these movies or whatnot, you can do so down in the comments below. And yeah, let's begin. So we start off with the most recent movie I watched, which I watched just last night, Impractical Jokers, the movie. Um, if you've seen the TV show Impractical Jokers, you've seen the movie. There's very little difference except they try to integrate this fictionalized story into the movie about an event when they were kids and how it affects current day and everything. But like the main part of the movie that is like what you really want is basically the stuff from the actual show. The like little challenges they do. It's fun, it's funny, it's entertaining, it's just like the show. Like again, if you like the show, which I do, um, you're going to probably enjoy the movie. But it doesn't feel like a theatrical movie. I will give it that. It does not feel like a theatrical movie. But that's not to say it's not good. It's very good. Um, After that, we have Snowpiercer. So Snowpiercer just came out with a series, actually. But this was the movie that started all. This movie came out in, I believe, 2013. Um, this movie was really fucking good. Like, I didn't know what I was going to think of it going into it. I've heard a lot about it throughout the years. It's just something that it's like people have talked about. Um, had a lot more big names in it than I thought. Like I knew about Chris Evans being in it, but I didn't know like John Hurt was in it. John Hurt's amazing, by the way. So it's like that was a very welcome surprise. I didn't know Tilda Swinton was in it. There's just so many. Um, Octavia Spencer is in it, but yeah, it's like I went into the movie kind of thinking like, okay, people really love this movie. Let's see what it's like. It was fantastic. It was so well written, so well acted, had a, an amazing amount of depth and intrigue to it, and it had a very small like uh, world, I guess you could say, because it all takes place on a train. And you sure, but not enough to, and my camera died. Not enough to where it feels like it's this big open world. It gives you just enough while not giving you a lot, and it's really surprisingly amazing at that. Let me fix my camera here. Okay. Um, there we go. Sorry about that. But yeah, it's really amazing. The story's fantastic. The acting is fantastic. The premise and the ending. It's like I can see some people being confused or disappointed at it. I loved it. I thought it was how this should have ended. Honestly. Moving on, though, we have Oksha. Oksha is a film. I believe it was directed by the same guy who did that newer movie, that Parasite movie that's really big. Um, I believe it's the same director actually. But Oksha is a story about basically animals. It's very much a story with a message about animals and cruelty and how we treat them and everything. And it does it in a interesting, almost mythological way, but not quite. Uh, we have both American and Korean characters in this, and they kind of blend that pretty well. They have a good, they make it feel natural. There's also some characters in there who are really interesting. I'm trying not to give away too much, but they have this really interesting motivation in the film. Um, and you kind of wonder if this group, as my camera died again. Um, but yeah, and it's like by the end, it's not the best movie. It has some issues, and it's very heavy handed with its messages. But it's cute and it's fun and it has a very nice ending. The ending is really cute. Um, Either way, before we get to the next one, okay. Um, there we go. I have no idea why it's doing this. This thing is old, it's fidgety, so sorry about that. Hopefully, it doesn't keep doing it, you know? Next, we have The Show. This one was one I just kind of saw on Netflix at one point, and it's like, okay, what is this? This sounds interesting. Um, this was an interesting movie, and again, it's one that's not perfect. It has some issues with it, but it's very interesting. It's another movie with a very heavy-handed message, but the execution, the way it's delivered to us, is really fascinating, hard to watch, and at the same time, you can't take your eyes off it. It's like a train wreck. It has some good actors in it. It's one of the few things I've seen Giancarlo Esposito in, outside of the Breaking Bad verse, and he's really good in it, but really different than like what you would expect because he's not anything like Gus Fring from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, but he's still fantastic in this. He was in Osha too, by the way. I forgot to mention that. Um, but yeah, the movie has some very dark stuff in it. It's very dark in its concept, honestly. Um, it's also very, like I said, hard to watch. There's some scenes and some moments in it that are really upsetting. And I actually had to pause it at a few points and just just take a walk to clear my head and just calm myself down because it was upsetting. Um, but the ending makes it worth it. The ending feels like, yeah, this is what needed to happen, and it's like this catharsis almost. It's like, yeah, this is this is satisfying. Um, the movie is very fascinating, though. The only thing I'll tell you about it is it centers around reality and game show kind of concepts. Um, so I'll leave it at that. But you should check it out. I definitely suggest people check this one out. Next, we have Jumanji, the next level. So when Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle was released, people were worried because they were worried that it couldn't live up to the original Robin Williams Jumanji movie. But it struck lightning. It struck gold. It was it was great. It was fantastic. People were surprised at how good it was. And a lot of people said still wasn't as good as the original, and that's fine. But the fact is, people liked it. And so when they announced they were going to make another one, people were more on board. And I finally had seen it, and yeah, it struck gold again. It was just as good, and in some ways better than the last one, and it continued to do everything right. it continued to rely on the quality actors they got to be able to sell the completely ridiculous and wild concept. It relied on a well written comedy that injected heart and action into it very well. And it was just fun. Like, that's the biggest thing about these movies. They are fun. And in a way, it also gives you a different look into some of these. Like, yeah, we've seen, like, Dwayne Johnson in other comedy-related stuff before these movies. But this is, like, really comedic for him. And Kevin Hart, yeah, he does this, but not as much these silly comedies. He does more mature comedies, for lack of a better word. This is more Jack Black's level, let's be honest. But he's really good in it in the fact that he has to play a character in a different way than he normally does, I guess you could say. And Karen Gillan, it's like, I know her from Doctor Who, okay? So it's like, this is much different than how she was in Doctor Who, to be fair. But not to a degree where they feel unnatural. They pull off these roles well. And again, the story is really good. And the inclusion of Danny DeVito and Danny Glover in this one, fantastic. They were excellent. But next, we go on to Batman Ninja, which this was terrible. Batman Ninja was one of the worst in this set by far. It basically feels like it's an anime Batman movie. It's actual Japanese anime, but it feels like it was made by someone who neither understands anime or Batman. It's like, yeah, it has all these Batman characters and concepts in it, all these anime concepts in it, and none of it meshes well. Again, I'm not going to go into details here and spoilers, but I will say there's way too much of everything. It tries way too hard. The story, the plot, and the things that occur within it are completely illogical and feel so impossibly disconnected. The movie feels like it feels like it's trying to force everything Batman in your face at once without making any of it feel natural. Basically like the Gotham series, that live action TV series Gotham, where it again forces everything Batman in your face without making any of it feel natural. Yeah, it's kind of like that, except it's anime. It's not good. It's just not good. I will give it one thing. The voice actors are fantastic. The voice actors are fantastic, but that's really the only thing I can give it. Even the art and animation I'm okay with, but it's like, it's done in this almost kind of weird 3D like way, and it's almost distracting. So it's like, even that's a little annoying. But it's mostly the story and everything, and the writing and all that's terrible. There's also this plot twist near the end of the movie that is only a plot twist for a few seconds, and then it's like it kind of reverts everything. It's like it didn't even last long enough to work. So it's like, yeah, it was kind of terrible bad. Then we move on to Unicorn Store. This is another one I watched yesterday. So Unicorn Store was one I had heard about for quite a while. It stars Brie Larson and Sam Jackson. So kind of reuniting from Captain Marvel. Although I don't know which one actually came out first, because this came out in 2017. Didn't Captain Marvel come out in 2018? Or 2019? This had to have come out first. Yeah, this had to have been before Captain Marvel. Either way, it's both of them back again. The movie, like, going into it, just from the very basic premise, sounds ridiculous. But watching it, it feels like it was written by someone who is either someone who has never written a movie before, or by a kid. And I do not know if that was intentional. The dialogue, especially throughout most of the movie, is so off and weird. And again, I can't tell if it's intentional. But then it's like the second, or I would say the last act of the movie, the last third of the movie, um, is somehow just exceptionally better than everything else. There's this one character introduced whose interactions with Brie Larson's main character is the interactions are so good that it almost feels like it's from a different movie. The ending is good. I'll give it that. The ending, I like how it ended, considering everything that led up to it. But there is a massive, like, weird tone issue in this movie where it's like sometimes it's almost whimsical and goofy and silly, and then other times it talks about really serious issues and big problems, and even there's parts where it gets extremely serious and emotionally driven, and it's like it feels like you're just getting whiplash from it. Like the tone is all over the place, and it never seems to know what it's trying to go for. The acting is good. I mean, Brie Larson, Sam Jackson, Joan Cusack is in this. They're all fantastic. The actor who plays the person who meets and associates with Brie Larson's character, I'm not gonna again. I'm trying not to reveal anything, but they're a great actor. Um, the acting is good for what the movie is. Like they're doing the best they can, but it's the dialogue and the writing that's just weird, and I don't know fully what to think of it. It's like I don't know whether to see this as good or bad or not, um, because I don't know how much of it was intentional. I don't know if it was intentionally written to be like that. I would suggest checking it out yourself to get a feel for it, but I don't know. After that, we have Would You Rather. So we've played Would You Rather on this channel before, but I watched Would You Rather this time. So this is a psychological horror movie. Yeah. I mean, obviously you think Would You Rather, you think psychological, sure, but not necessarily horror. Um, so without going into too much details, it takes the Would You Rather route. It takes the idea of the game of Would You Rather, like that people play on the internet and with friends and stuff, and it turns it into a psychological horror, and it works. Like, it really surprised me how much it worked. Um, Not only just the idea of turning that game into a psychological horror, but maybe it's because of the actors, maybe it's because of the specific way it's written, but it's actually really tense. Like throughout the entire movie, it's really tense, and you're really wondering what's going to happen next, and you're wondering how is the main character going to get out of this. You're wondering what the hell. It's intense. It's wild. It's fun. In a very twisted way. And the actors are fantastic. There's some really, really good actors in there. One of the actors in it is the dad from the Home Alone movies, the original Home Alone movies, Kevin McAllister's dad. And it's like, I didn't realize that until after the movie, because I was looking at him in the movie, and it's like, I know you. I don't know how, but I know you. And then after I watched the movie, I looked it up, and it's like, oh, well, okay, I do know you. I've seen the Home Alone movie so many times. Um, but yeah, it's like there's so many good just characters in it, which is definitely one of the big draws of it, the characters. But obviously the Would You Rathers are what it really is about, and they don't disappoint with that. Um, so yeah, I would say I enjoyed it. After that, though, we have American Psycho, another horror movie, but this one, I I guess you would just consider it kind of a horror. when I went into this, I was thinking it was going to be kind of different than it was. I was thinking it was going to be about a businessman who slowly starts losing his mind and becomes a serial killer. And it's not about that. I won't, again, I'm not going to spoil much of these movies, but that's not quite what the movie is. Christian Bale, it is the most wild Christian Bale performance I have ever seen. I will give him that. I have never seen Christian Bale perform like this. Um, it was a mind fuck because you don't know exactly what was real and what was not. Let's put it that way. Again, I won't spoil exactly what I'm talking about, but it's one of those movies. Um, the acting was good, but it's like the horror aspect of it. It wasn't really scary. It was more of like you're watching this psycho be a psycho in everything he does, not just in terms of murders or whatnot. No, it's like you see right from early on that this guy is not well. And everything is just so off about the way he talks, the way he acts, everything. And it's like, oh my god. It's unnerving, and I think that's the point. But at the same time, I wouldn't call it a super entertaining movie. I don't know. It's not bad. It's not bad, but at the same time, it's weird and has some issues. And the dog, I think, is about to start. Yep. Someone was delivering a package. But we'll move on to the next one while the dog starts to calm down. So the next movie is The Babysitter. This one is a kind of horror comedy movie. Um, and it's very, very basic premise. It's about a kid who finds out his babysitter is a psychotic evil bitch. I'll leave it at that because I don't want to spoil anything else. But yeah, it definitely blends horror and comedy pretty well. It's super ridiculous. It is super ridiculous, and it's more bloody than I thought it was going to be, which really surprised me. But it's fun. It's funny. It's, again, super ridiculous in a good way. There's a... Don't do that. There's a little bit of serious stuff in it, but very, very little. Most of the time, it's just not even pretending. The actors are fantastic. The actress for the babysitter she is gold. Like, she is absolute gold. So I will definitely give it that the actors are definitely just enjoying hamming it up because they very much ham it up in this. And again, that's the point. It's a horror comedy. And it's directed by McG, who I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe is the same guy from Supernatural, which is all kinds of fascinating. I think it's Supernatural. He's from something I've watched. I think it's Supernatural. Now I'm questioning that. Anyways, he's from something I watch. And I think it's Supernatural. But it's like, it's so different than the other stuff I've seen, so it's like, kind of throws me off sometimes. But it's good for what it is. After that, we have Misery, a Stephen King movie. And from what I've heard, Stephen King's favorite adaptation of his books. Like, this is the adaptation he likes the most from his repertoire. So Misery stars James Caan and Kathy Bates, along with a couple other characters here and there. But it's mainly just James Caan and Kathy Bates. Let's be honest, it's their movie. No one else matters. This is another one of those horror movies that is very psychological in nature. Kathy Bates is phenomenal. Like, I've seen Kathy Bates in a couple things here and there, but I've never like really like known her as an actress. But she is phenomenal here. And James Caan, yeah, he serves his role excellently. The writing is great. The pacing is fantastic. The pacing is really important to this movie. Um, and it's really intense and nail biting. Like there's certain moments where it's like time is of a definite issue, and you're just wondering like if how you're it's basically coming down to the clock. I'm trying again not to spoil anything, so it's like it's coming down to the clock, and it's like you're you're just nervous as hell, wondering if it's going to turn out all right. It's so wild, and of course, there's the famous scene that everyone knows, um, and it's better in context. It's better in context. It makes more sense, and it delivers better. I feel. But yeah, this was a fantastic one, and honestly, I would say this is one of the best Stephen King movies I've seen by far. Then we go on to Scoob. So Scoob is a movie that not many people seem to like. A lot of people are complaining about it and everything and saying it's not like Scooby Doo and it's not what they want from a Scooby Doo movie. And I'm the opposite. For me, this has revitalized my interest in Scooby Doo. For a long time now, the movies that have been released and of course Mystery Inc. have destroyed my interest in Scooby Doo. They've utterly destroyed my interest in the series because it's like it feels like it's lost its way. Mystery Inc. was so horribly miswritten, especially with its characters. Um, a lot of these movies are just dumb rehashes and just ridiculous, over the top plots that just don't work, or they're just guest things with WWE and Bobby fucking Flay from the Food Network and bullshit like that. Um, it's just random bullshit for the most of it these days. But I decided to give Scoob a chance, and I was actually really pleasantly surprised. It gets the characters right while also modernizing them in a very meaningful way. Velma is fantastic, by the way. Um, it makes them feel fresh and exciting and new. The story is great. It integrates other Hanna-Barbera characters, which, not a huge spoiler because that was in all of the trailers and stuff with the Blue Falcon and Dynamite. Um, so it's like it does it very well. I mean, hell, we know that all the advertising had revealed who the villain was, and we know it's Dick Dastardly from like Wacky Races and whatnot. So it's like it's really good and it's really funny, and Dick Dastardly is phenomenal. What is the name of the actor? I can't think of the name of the actor. He plays Lucius Malfoy in the Harry Potter movies. I can't think of his name, but he did amazing. Like it was just so fantastic. He did a great job. Um, and yeah, one of the big controversies were that they recast all of the actors. Like Matthew Lillard isn't Shaggy, Gray Delisle, Griffin isn't Daphne, all of that stuff. Kate McCucci isn't Velma, but it's like, and I get the controversy behind that. I understand that they didn't even try to cast any of them, and all of that, and I understand how that's upsetting to a lot of them, to a lot of the voice actors who themselves who had become so ingrained into these roles and have fallen in love with these roles. Like I believe Grey Griffin herself was actually really upset by this, and Matthew Lillard, he wished the movie luck and everything, but he was probably pretty upset too, and I get that. I understand, but just judging on what it is, the new voice actors did great. They all sounded like I feel like they should have sounded. So I will say I do sympathize with the voice actors here, though. Especially since they weren't even really consulted about it, from what I've heard. It's kind of like the Powerpuff Girls 2016 series all over again, where it's like they didn't even try to bring back the original voice actresses. Um, so yeah, it's like I do definitely think that was wrong. They very well could have brought back the other voice actors. It's like I don't see why they couldn't have. But either way, the movie I thought was still fantastic. The writing was great. It was funny as hell. The characters were wonderful. The story, the conflict, all of it worked really well in my opinion. So I don't really see, outside of the voice actor thing, I don't really see where all these complaints about the movie are coming from. Um, and yeah, it's different from other Scooby Doo stuff, but why does that matter? Why is that a bad thing? Why can't we change things up every now and again? People are too quick to stick to old formulas and not really change things up, and it's a little annoying sometimes, to be honest, for me at least. But anyways, our last movie is The Hateful Eight. So this is number 13. Um, Now that I think about it, I probably should have had it at. I should have made it the eighth movie on the list, just for the fun. This is a Quentin Tarantino movie, though, um, and it's really, really good. I mean, pretty much all of Quentin Tarantino's movies are really good. Let's be honest. The writing is just always fantastic, and it's fantastic here. The acting is great from everyone involved. Yeah, it's just like it's really good. And this one is really done in an interesting way because it's kind of a mystery movie. It still has the over the top um, Quentin Tarantino violence and swearing and just insanity. It's very much still a Tarantino movie, but it's very much a mystery movie. It takes place almost entirely in one location the entire time. So it's very secluded, very isolated in that. There's actually a term for that, and I can't remember what it was when a movie takes place almost entirely in one location. Um, because 12 Angry Men did the same thing, the 50s movie 12 Angry Men, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. Anyways, yeah, everyone in this movie is fantastic. Sam Jackson is great as always. Um, there's so many good actors in it. Um, the mystery itself isn't too difficult to figure out if you're really paying attention, but it's not just about the mystery. It's also about how the characters are going to react to it once they find everything out. Um, and then there are still certain parts that still surprise you, no matter what. There's one part in particular for me that like just threw me completely off, and it's like, whoa, wait, what? What? But it's really fun. Like all Tarantino movies as well, it's pretty long, but it never really feels like it because it's paced out well. It feels like it's running for as long as it needs to, and never feels like it's overstaying its welcome. All in all, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. So yeah, those are 13 more movies I have seen for the first time in 2020. Um, Tell me your thoughts on these movies down below, and hey, maybe again we'll do another one of these when I've seen 13 more movies this year, which is very possible. I've been watching a lot of movies in general. And of course, as always, I will not be counting movies that I react to on the channel on this list because I give my thoughts on those movies in the actual reaction afterthoughts and stuff. But either way, tell me your thoughts on these movies and all, and maybe we'll have another one of these videos, like I said. We'll see. In the meantime, thank you all so much for tuning in, and for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.